أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We meet again on this day at this time, inshallah, to be together, even though this is a type of technological gathering. There's no one here in person. We are scattered around the world. Nevertheless, when Allah's words are bringing us together and we feel that He is with us, that is what counts. I'd like to begin this presentation today outside of the perimeters of the presentations. Condolences. I want to offer two condolences. The first condolence is concerning Ayatollah Muhammad Ali al-Taskhiri, who passed away a few days ago. May Allah rest his soul in everlasting peace. And our sympathies go out to Imam Khamenei and to the sincere, independent, principlist, loyalist, committed Muslims who feel the magnitude of the passing away of such a person who was dedicated to Islamic unity, to Islamic cohesion, to Islamic solidarity, and to Islamic togetherness at all levels, in every forum you can imagine. He gave his life, and may Allah for this cause, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him generously. I knew him personally. I know about him what others may not know. Suffice it to say that I can testify that he was a person who was not playing politics with Islamic solidarity or Islamic unity. He was doing it out of his heart and from the depths of him. Unlike some others who like to take this issue in another direction, which unfortunately there are indications that that is the case, and therefore Islamic unity and Islamic brotherhood and Islamic togetherness will appear as the months and the years go by to have parted course with the sincerity and the selflessness of Ayatollah Taskhiri and those who were around him. Unfortunately, those who were around him are no longer to be cited in this effort. There's a new crop and a new crew of people. May Allah guide them, and may Allah show them that playing politics with Islamic feelings doesn't work. Blunt, frank, and as sincerely said as I could. The second condolence goes out to the family, the relatives, the brothers, the companions, the friends of Isam al-Aryan in Egypt, who passed away while he was in prison. He was also a very dedicated person concerning the Islamic issues, the Islamic general interest, and Islamic brotherhood. We lost two individuals this week who, even though the circumstances are different, one of them was a free man, the other one was a man who was behind bars, but both of them belong to sincere Islamic efforts to bring about the unity of the Muslims in their own ways. And the third remark I have before going into Allah's words and Allah's meanings as far as we can understand them in Surat Yusuf. The third remark I have in this sort of extended introduction is instead of condolences, our congratulations go out to Mr. Erdogan, President Erdogan, who expressed today that there was a discovery of a gas well, an oil well, whatever type of resource. I couldn't get to the details of that information in the Black Sea that belongs to the people of Turkey. And hopefully this will go a long way. Some estimates say maybe for another 20 years in providing whatever it needs, whatever the people of Turkey need as far as energy is concerned. That is also a much delightful development that I think we all should feel happy about and congratulate our brothers with their political left and right zigzagging from time to time on the issues, but nevertheless they remain at heart as much as they can committed also to Islamic unity and Islamic togetherness. Now we transition from those introductory notes and we come to Allah's words, where we feel much more comfort and much more meaning than worldly affairs, even though Allah's words concern worldly affairs. I think we signed off the last time بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الملك ائتوني به أستخلصه لنفسي. After Yusuf interpreted the king's dream or vision, and he knew that there was a person who knew how to do this, he said, well, bring him here. I want him for myself. أستخلصه لنفسي. فلما كلمه, and so when the king spoke to Yusuf, he said, إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين. Now, after all that you've been through, with all of the history that you have, and he knew about him being in prison, he knew about him being in the house of the most popular ruler in Egypt, Aziz Misr. He looked at all of that and he said, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. Now, today and onwards, as far as your affair is concerned, you are with us. You are in a stable, secure position. You have our confidence. And even in today's language, makinun amin, if we want to bring it up to today's language, we give you our security clearance. So this king knew Yusuf was overcame his sexual temptations in the potential affair that could have taken place with the wife of the populist ruler. He knew Yusuf, so in this regard, Yusuf was a very mature, dependable individual who overcame his lusts and his instinctual push and pull into sin. The king knew that. This says something about the king himself. So what wasn't one of these cheap personalities. And even though there's nothing that indicates to us that he was a Muslim of any type, but at least he had a sense of fairness and evaluation. And then he knew that Yusuf could interpret these visions. He interpreted the visions of the prison mates that he was with. He interpreted the vision of the ruler of Egypt. And then he saw Yusuf personally. And in this personal interaction, he sensed the quality and the fine character of Yusuf alayhi salam. So he more or less, when he said, "Innaka ladayna makinun amin," more or less in today's language and words, he told Yusuf, "You made it. Now you're with us." This also, I may have not have mentioned this in the previous explanations of these ayat, but I want to draw your attention to the fact that Yusuf was a very handsome, a very attractive young man. Remember the words of the women when they saw him debut, when they saw him in his first appearance in the mansion of Imra'at al-Aziz. They said, "Hasha lillahi ma hadha bashara, in huwa illa malakun kareem." It's an angel, because of his very appealing appearance. This very appealing appearance went to prison. We know what prisons are like. I don't think there's, of course, in that time, maybe there were no electronic surveillance and the other technological gadgets that are in today's prisons. But prisons are known for their isolation, whether they are primitive or whether they are progressive. You're isolated in prison with others who are isolated. Think about a person who is very attractive, who is put in a prison, isolated with other people who are denied their sexual fulfillment. I guess this is one area that skips the minds of those, it skips our minds because we're not thinking. And that is what is required in these ayat, and hopefully that is what molds us together at this time every week. We begin to think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is relating to us. Anyways, after this maybe retroactive comment, I go to the following ayah, in which immediately after the king says to Yusuf alayhi salam, "Innaka ladayna makinun amin," immediately the ayah right now that follows says, "Qala," Yusuf said, "Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard, inni hafidhun alim." Place me in a position to be responsible for the treasuries or the treasures or the productivity or the assets of the country or of the land or even of the world. We don't know. There's no indication of what Egypt are we speaking about during this time. Is it definitely it wasn't the geographical Egypt that was carved out by British colonialism in the past couple of centuries. That's not the Egypt that we're speaking about. That's definite. But what Egypt are we speaking about? Are we speaking about an Egypt that extends into all of North Africa, parts of Central Africa, all of Eastern Africa, up to maybe what is called today Ethiopia, parts of Arabia, parts of Western Asia, and parts of the Mediterranean? Potentially, that could have been the Egypt of that time, in one sense or the other. So Yusuf immediately says, "Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard." That is also an indicator of a person who knows when an opportunity is presented and he wants to seize the opportunity and seize the moment. This is what is happening right now. Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard. Inni hafidhun alim. I'm a person who can take care of whatever has to be taken care of in the best possible way. And I'm a person who has enough information or enough knowledge to do that. A question here presents itself if we take into consideration the other Islamic information that we have in our minds. And that is, there is a hadith by our cherished Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him and his, says, concerning those who want decision-making positions, they want to be officials, they want to be rulers, they want to be governors, those who seek, who are trying to get to those positions. إِنَّا لَا نُوَلِّي هَذَا الْأَمْرِ إِمْرَأً حَرِصَ عَلَيْهِ. The hadith to the effect that we will not allocate these types of responsibilities of decision making to those who are intent or those who are anxious to be in those positions. Okay, and that is sort of, and there are other indicators that we have in our Islamic body of knowledge that say to us that a person who desires a position like that should not have it. But here, the Quran, Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, is telling us, Yusuf immediately says, Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard. It seems like Yusuf was anxious to have that position, which in today's world could be like, if we wanted to bunch it up, the Minister of Finances, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Economy. Those ministries, Yusuf asked this ruler to allocate that responsibility to him. So what appears here is that Yusuf maybe should not have said that, because of what we understand of those who want to be in the, or those who have a drive and they are extremely anxious to hold high office. Why did Yusuf say, Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard? Here's where some context helps. To understand this, we need some context. Yusuf had just interpreted the king's vision dream. And that vision dream indicated that Egypt, that area, general geographical area, is going to be approaching 14 years, 7 very productive years, but then the following 7 years, after the first 7 productive years, are going to be years of scarcity and want and need and poverty and potential famine. So there was an urgency here. Yusuf wanted to assume a responsibility, knowing that others may not or are not as insightful and as trustworthy and as selfless as Yusuf is, to take care of these coming 14 years. So you can consider this like an emergency. Yusuf alayhi salam was in circumstances that are very urgent. They demand someone who can preempt the coming 14 years. From that knowledge and from that position, Yusuf spoke out from a sense of responsibility for potentially millions of people. We don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people who could suffer if these coming 14 years are not going to be steered in the right direction. Knowing that, we can understand why Yusuf said, Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard, inni hafidhun alim. Okay. So we We proceed. The following ayah says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. It is in this manner. Remember what Yusuf has been through. He's been through a hellish type of experience with his family, with the family that adopted him, with the prison system that he was in, and now finally he is where he is. And he didn't get there because he was playing politics. He didn't get there because he was negotiating away his morality. He didn't get there because he was compromising his God-given principles. He honored his principles, his morality. He honored the highest standards of a straightforward character throughout this saga in life, from childhood all the way up to now, where an educated guess would say he's probably around 30 years old or in the early 30s. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. Now Yusuf had the freedom to move about in this territory accordingly, as necessity and responsibility would dictate. نُصِيبُ بِرَحْمَتِنَا مَن نَشَاءُ. Our mercy targets whomever we will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking. And the mercy that is expressed to Yusuf has a flourishing effect, which means those who are around Yusuf, those who Yusuf is interacting with, all of these individuals, communities, neighborhoods, cities, lands, are an expression of Allah's mercy to people through Yusuf alayhi salam. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We will never waste, or we will never go into loss the efforts of those who improve what they do, those who go from doing good to doing better, and from doing better to doing the best. They are on that trajectory in life. Al-Muhsinin. Al-Muhsin is a person who does more than what is expected, does more and better than what is expected of him to do. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And the compensation of the life to come is better than is better for those who committed themselves to the power, the preponderance, the prevalence, the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ. Khayr here has two meanings. Whenever you see the word khayr in the Quran, know that it has two meanings. One of khayr is the opposite of shar. Shar is evil. So khayr would be good or virtue. Khayr. And then khayr is also, in Arabic it's called ism tafdeel. It shows something to be more advanced or better than something else. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, وَلَا أَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, it could mean it is good. The compensation of the final life is good for those who committed to Allah. And it could also mean it is better for those who committed to Allah, better than the compensation of this world. And then now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focuses our minds on a new development in the life of Yusuf. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف. Now we have the brothers of Yusuf who have arrived. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف. These brothers were the ones who set into motion all of these developments in Yusuf's life because of their feelings towards Yusuf and their feelings toward their father, Yaqub alayhi salam. Now they appear on the scene. We parted with them way back when they more or less threw Yusuf into the well. Now they appear again. وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. They enter into the presence of Yusuf. He knew them, but they didn't know him. They were oblivious to him. فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. The last time both the brothers and Yusuf saw each other was when Yusuf was a very young child, maybe 10, maybe 12, in that area, 9, whatever. He was very young, pre-puberty years. So in the coming 20 or 25 years, Yusuf's features from a young boy to becoming now a full-fledged man of status, they could not, he was, to them, to the brothers, he was disguised. They could not tell who he is. But because Yusuf was young and his brothers were older than him, their features did not change much. So altogether, he could identify them. Besides, he knew where they were coming from. So now he sees his brothers, but his brothers cannot see him. فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Okay, now what are they coming here for? They are coming because they need some merchandise. So they brought their means of transportation. In those days, they were either camels or horses or mules or donkeys. They brought these cargo carriers with them. So when وَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجِهَازِهِمْ, when they were supplied with the provisions that they came for, قَالَ ائْتُونِي بِأَخٍ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَبِيكُمْ. Yusuf said to them, bring me a brother from your father, meaning bring me your half-brother from your father. Now, how would he have asked them to do that without giving them the suspicion that he may be Yusuf? Before, and this is where our thinking is required. When we read these ayat, there are sometimes commonsensical areas that are placed between one ayah and the next. And here is one of those places in the Quran where we have to activate our common sense. When Yusuf's brothers came to him, they didn't simply say, "This is what we want," and then they got it the following minute, and then they left. There was a conversation that took place between Yusuf and his own brothers, who did not know that he is Yusuf. And Yusuf may have asked them exactly where did you come from, and who are your relatives, and what's your name, what are your names. And so he took all this information, and as they opened up to him, these brothers, they said, this is our family, this is our father, these are our relatives, and we have a half brother. And so they gave out all of this information. After they divulged this information to Yusuf, then he said, "Ituni bi akhin lakum min abikum." Bring me a brother of yours who you have from your father. Meaning his mother and your mother are not the same mothers, but you are stepbrothers because your father is the half brothers because your father is the same father. أَلَا تَرَوْنِي أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانِ. Yusuf is saying to them, can you not see that I am honoring in a fair and precise manner, our commercial transaction, value for value, and item for item. وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. And I'm the best one who can accommodate, whether it's you or whether it's your half-brother or whoever comes into my sphere of responsibility. I'm the person who can take care of that person in the best possible way. وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. فَإِن لَمْ تَأْتُونِي بِهِ فَلَا كَيْلَ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ. If you don't bring him to me, your half-brother, then don't expect in the future for me to do any transactions with you. And don't even think about coming close to me, approaching me in any way. وَلَا تَقْرَبُونَ. قَالُوا سَنُرَاوِدُ عَنْهُ أَبَاهُ وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ. These brothers replied to Yusuf and said, okay, we are going to see how we can negotiate with our father to have him release his son, and we give you our word. وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ. There's an emphasis here. We give you our word, that's what we're going to do. وَإِنَّا لَفَاعِلُونَ. And then Yusuf said, وَقَالَ يُوسُفُ لِفِتْيَانِهِ اجْعَلُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ فِي رِحَالِهِمْ. He gave orders. Yusuf now is in a position where he can manage this bartering. The brothers came with what they had, and they needed some merchandise, or they needed some necessities. So they paid. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says bida'atahum, it indicates that there is a bartering that is taking place. These brothers came with some merchandise. I don't know what it could be. It could be some clothes. It could be some dairy products. It could be some sheep or lamb or whatever. There's a bartering that took place, and then in exchange for that, they took whatever necessities they needed. Some interpreters say bidah here means money. Yours sincerely thinks that if it was money, the word أموالهم would have been used instead of بضاعتهم. So what Yusuf is telling his subordinates, فتيانه, اجعلوا بضاعتهم في رحالهم. Place their own, whatever they came with, merchandise. Obviously, here it could not be sheep or goats or whatever, because it's impossible to place those in containers on camels or horses. It could have been something like maybe precious metals. It could have been something. It could have been some currency. Could have been in there. It could have been some even some woven material from the sheep that they had in what is today Palestine, etc. Anyways, Yusuf tells his subordinates, whatever they paid for, whatever barter material they gave us, sneak that into the merchandise that we are giving them. In other words, Yusuf is having them go back to their father free, not paying for what they were supposed to have purchased. لعلهم يعرفونها إذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم, so that they may identify, realize, recognize what I am doing once they return to their people. لعلهم يرجعون, when they realize that they have obtained their own merchandise free of charge. Once they return home, when they open everything up and they realize, wait a minute, inside of these bags, this is the same thing that we paid, that we were supposed to, we gave it to them, but they have returned it to us. So Yusuf here is encouraging them to return to him. Oh, that's a great, they feel now, oh, this is a great deal. We got everything we wanted, and whatever we gave them as a price, they returned that price to us. That's a winning deal. فَلَمَّا رَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَبِيهِمْ, when these brothers returned to their father, قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مُنِعَ مِنَّا الْكَيْلِ, they said to their father, oh dear father, in the future, we will not be able to transact business. منع منا الكيل فأرسل معنا أخانا. And so will you please send our brother with us? نكتل, that way we can transact again. وإنا له لحافظون, the exact words they said to their father now that they said to him previously concerning Yusuf. When they convinced their father to send Yusuf with them, when they said, we're going to go out and play, remember when Yusuf was a child, they said to him, وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ, they repeat the exact same words concerning Yusuf's brother, full brother. Some tafsir say his name was Binyamin, which is Benjamin, all this. Whatever, I don't place much confidence. Could be, but it could not be. We don't know exactly. But so this is how they approach their father. Look, if we want to live into the future and we want to get our necessities from Egypt, then send our brother with us the next time so that we will be able to do this. قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما آمنتكم على أخيه من قبل. He said, am I going to trust you with him? Am I going to trust you, my sons, with taking Yusuf's brother and do the same thing I did when I trusted you with taking his brother, meaning Yusuf, before? Remember, in those early years, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Yaqub ended his words with his sons by saying, Allah is the best one who takes care, who can protect and preserve, and He is the most gracious and the most merciful. Now, the ayat say, وَلَمَّا فَتَحُوا مَتَاعَهُمْ وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ. They came to their father and expressed to him the whole scenario that developed in Egypt before they opened up their own containers. So after they cleared the air with their father on taking their brother on another journey, on another commercial journey to Egypt, they go to their containers, they open them up, and then they find they return to us the payment method that we paid for the stuff that we got. وَجَدُوا بِضَاعَتَهُمْ رُدَّتْ إِلَيْهِمْ قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا مَا نَبْغِي. They said, oh our father, what else can we ask for? No one could imagine that they actually went this distance and thought that they had paid for the commodities that they got from Egypt, but when they came home and they opened up their containers, they found the commodities that they bought along with the price that they thought that they had given to the business people there in Egypt who tried. But these on orders from Yusuf, these business people, they put back the bartering material that Yusuf's brothers paid for. No, wow. هذه بضاعتنا ردت إلينا ونمير أهلنا. This is the price that we paid has been returned to us, and now we can supply our folks, our families, our people, وَنَحْفَظُ أَخَانَا, and take good care of our brother, وَنَزْدَادُ كَيْلَ بَعِيرٍ ذَلِكَ كَيْلٌ يَسِيرٌ. So if our brother goes to us, on the next time we go to Egypt, we'll have an extra load, the load that is attached to their brother. Finally, when all of this came to the attention of Yaqub alayhi salam, the father, he said, قَالَ لَنْ أُرْسِلَهُ مَعَكُمْ حَتَّى تُؤْتُونِي مَوْثِقًا. I will not send him with you unless you, in the most sincere and in the most avowed way, promise me a promise from Allah that you will bring him back, except if things are out of your control. إِلَّا أَن يُحَاطَ بِكُمْ. Which means there were considerations of danger here. Yaqub was factoring that in. He said, if something out of the unexpected happens, then I'm not going to hold you responsible. But excluding anything out of the ordinary happening, I want you to promise me in the most serious manner that you will return your brother with you, except if there is danger somewhere and things happen that are unexpected. فلما آتوه موثقهم قال الله على ما نقول وكيل. Once they offered their father the guarantees and assurances and promises that they will come back with their brother, Yaqub says, Wallahu ala ma naqulu wakil. Allah is the trustee of what we are saying to each other. وقال يا بني لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. He said, my sons, when you go back to Egypt, don't go on one route when you enter Egypt. Disperse yourselves upon entering Egypt. This means that they were potential targets, either because of the word that got out about what took place between them and Yusuf, or because there was friction between the land that Yusuf is in and the land that they are in. It could have been tribal friction between these two lands, or it could have been friction between those who are, in today's world, governing in those two lands. Whatever it was, and we're not offered the details here, suffice it to say that their father advised them, when you go enter into Egypt, don't enter as one solid group of people, go through different entrances. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. This is a prophet speaking to his sons. He says, when it comes to Allah's decision in these matters, I have no input. I will not be able to vouch for you. I will not be able to protect you. I will not be able to relieve you of whatever comes your way. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. This is a prophet speaking, and he's speaking to his own sons. And he says, وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. He didn't say, I'm a prophet, I am ma'soom, and therefore, because I am ma'soom, you are going to be protected and all of this. He's putting them in the real world. وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. The final decision is with Allah. The final decision is positioned with Allah. In al-hukm, al-hukm here is either judgment or rule or decision. Whatever the finality of these three are, it is with Allah. In al-hukmu illa lillah. عليه توكلت وعليه فليتوكل المتوكلون. In him I place my trust, meaning in Allah I place my trust, and everyone who is to place their trust should place it only in Allah. Whether it's trusting his sons with Yusuf's brother, his other son, or whether he is trusting the journey, entrusting the journey that they are to embark upon to Allah, whether he is entrusting the transaction that's going to take place in Egypt or the return journey. All of this he is placing in the care of Allah Jalla wa Ala. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُمْ. So when they entered Egypt, following the instructions of their father, مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا حَاجَةٍ فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. I want to mention here, this is probably something you're not going to encounter, but we have to bethink these ayat. You will find different meanings for this ayah. I hope some of you read in preparation for this. But haja fi nafsi Yaqub. There was a necessity felt in the self, in the psychology of Yaqub. Remember, at the beginning of the surah, these brothers, they took pride in the fact that they are a usba. They are a family unit, a cohesive family unit that is selfish, self-centered family unit, usba. It could also be a self-centered tribal unit. But in this context that we are reading, usba here means that these brothers took pride, and they thought this was innocent pride, but it was misleading pride in the fact that they are usba. When the father, haja fi nafsi Yaqub qadaha, he told them, enter Egypt through different routes. Don't go there as one family unit or as a solidarity of brothers. In other words, as a usba. He advised them to undo in themselves, if they could learn from the experience of life, to deconstruct that usba mentality that they had in themselves, shared among themselves. إلا حاجة في نفس يعقوب قضاها وإنه لذو علم لما علمناه. And he is a person of knowledge that emanates from us, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These experiences in life were in the mind of Yaqub, they were interrelated. And so here is where he is trying, the father, Yaqub alayhi salam, is trying to disestablish the attitude in his own sons of their self-centeredness. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people are just not aware of this. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ. And when all of these brothers, they entered upon Yusuf, they sort of, you get the sense here, they had a pass to go right to Yusuf. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَخَاهُ. He didn't do this in front of them. It would have been obvious. That why is he taking this one brother to the exclusion of the other? He took them to one area, and then he took his brother to another secure area. Just him and his brother, Yusuf and his brother now are by themselves. Qala, in that seclusion, Yusuf says to his brother, Qala inni ana akhuk. In fact, I am your brother. فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Don't feel despair because of all of that they have been doing, meaning the brothers, the other brothers, in their false sense of superiority. Don't feel sad about that, and don't lose hope because of that. Now the ayah shifts and it goes, فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجِهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. Once again, when all the provisions were allocated to the brothers, they come on a commercial transaction here and they want some stuff, And so when all of this procurement was taken care of, he deliberately placed the official measuring instrument in the container of his brother. That was a deliberate policy there to, as we will see, to claim his brother to stay with Yusuf, to make a case that now my brother has to, now your brother has to stay with me. جعل السقاية في رحل أخيه ثم أذن مؤذن أيتها العير إنكم لسارقون. After everything was loaded and everyone was ready to go their own way, a public announcement was made. أذن مؤذن أيتها العير إنكم لسارقون. You commercial caravan, you're stealing. You are thieves. قالوا وأقبلوا عليهم ماذا تفقدون. These brothers, responding to this public announcement, went and said, what do you mean? What is it that is lost or being misplaced or being stolen? What is it? What is it that you don't have that you think we have? قالوا نفقد صواع الملك. In the ayah just before, the same instrument was called siqaya, the measuring instrument of the transaction business that was going on, whether it was a scale or whether it was something else. It was the official one that belonged to the king. It's not a simple something, this is some measuring instrument. It's an official one that belongs to the king. And that's what we don't have. We don't see it. So we suspect that you stole it. وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. And wherever it shows up, shall have a load, and I will see to it that is done. قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض. Yusuf's brother said, by Allah, you certainly know that we did not come with corruption in this land, and we are not thieves. We're not ones to do something like that. قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين. The officials said to Yusuf, okay, so what would be the penalty of someone who does something like that, steals something? What's the penalty going to be? قالوا جزاؤه. The officials in Egypt said to Yusuf's brothers, okay, so what is going to be the penalty of a person who steals something like that? And they said, these are Yusuf's brothers, they said to the officials, جَزَاؤُهُ مَنْ وُجِدَ فِي رَحْلِهِ فَهُوَ جَزَاؤُهُ. Wherever you find this item that is lost, it's a great value, it has a lot of meaning to you, it's probably a national treasure of sorts. Wherever you find it, that person is going to be responsible for it, because they are now confident that none of them did anything like this. They didn't know that behind the scenes something was being done. كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الظَّالِمِينَ. In such a manner, we will take up this issue. I think at this point we have run out of time. I hope we have enjoyed in a most innocent and sincere manner some of the meanings that are developing because of the prejudice and the discrimination at the beginning of Yusuf's life that set into motion all of these events, which are still developing. A psychology has its social and its what you call today political ramifications. All of these are intertwined. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our closeness to Allah and enrich our understanding of His words to us so that we can untangle the issues, the same issues that we encounter in real life today. I hope you have a blessed Friday and a prosperous week until we meet again in the company of Allah during the week and in the company of Allah during this hour. وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.